It is Friday, September 18th, 2020, and this is your China Update. We have 4 pieces of information to cover today, including China food security concerns prompt rethink of soybean expansion. Also, courtesy of China Banking News, Xi Jinping calls for greater guidance of private economy by Chinese Communist Party. We also have some new tweets and some new photos. Let's hop into it. And a brief caveat before today's video. While researching for these reports, I come across information from various sources. Just because I decide to include a piece of information doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with it. I like to let you decide for yourself. Moving on. And a couple of quick tweets before we get started. This is courtesy of Brownsville News. 13 years after grain last crossed the port of Brownsville, 34,000 metric tons of Rio Grande Valley sorghum was loaded from the elevator onto a vessel for export to China. And one last tweet before we get started. This is courtesy of Economic Daily China. In the first 7 months of 2020, China became the top trading partner of the European Union, a position previously held by the United States, said Eurostat on Wednesday. And this comes courtesy of the South China Morning Post. China food security concerns prompt rethink of soybean expansion. China should halt the expansion of soybean farms to leave space for strategic crops, including rice, wheat, and corn, to ensure adequate domestic food supply in light of rising tensions with the United States, industry leaders have said. The comments at this year's China Soybean Industry International Summit Forum marked a turn away from Beijing's previous push to boost domestic production and cut reliance on U.S. soybean imports amid the trade war. China launched a soybean revitalization plan in March of 2019, encouraging farmers to replace crops such as corn with soybeans through state subsidies. But it did little to change China's reliance on imported soybeans. The shift to soybean farming has also reduced corn supply, a key grain for animal feed, and pushed prices for the cereal grain to a 5-year high. Corn price inflation is now spreading to wheat as animal feed producers use it as a cheaper alternative. Yang Baolong, president of the China Soybean Association and general manager at Baidahong Group, the nation's largest agriculture and agribusiness group, said China must accept the U.S. will remain the dominant supplier of soybeans globally for the foreseeable future. The worst part of a trade war is not tariffs, but closed doors, Yang told hundreds of attendees at the forum in the northern city of Harbin on Monday. Instead of focusing on increasing domestic output, China should diversify its imports and aim to become a pricing center for the world soybean trade, given its huge purchases, Yang said. China is the world's largest soybean importer, with commodities bought from overseas accounting for nearly 90% of soybean consumption. It imported 88.5 million tons of soybean in 2019, an increase of 0.5% from 2018. Even though its plantation area expanded by 10%, the U.S., Brazil, and Argentina are China's key suppliers. Xin Guosheng, a professor of Tongji University, said China should leave the bulk soybean market, in which soybean is used to make oil and animal feed, 2 dominant producers like the U.S. and Brazil. Instead, it should use its limited arable land to develop a niche market for non-GM soybean with high protein. He added China should not use limited arable land to grow bulk soybean for animals. Chang Liwei, director of market information at the China National Grain and Oil Information Center, said China's purchases of U.S. soybeans have been strong this year as Beijing worked to fill the terms of the Phase 1 trade deal. Throughout the 4th quarter and the 1st quarter of next year, soybean supply will mainly depend on the U.S., Chang told the forum. China's demand for soybeans will rise 4.6% to 107.27 million tons in 2020, and China's annual imports could reach a record high at 98 million tons, Chang said. The annual gathering of farmers, traders, academics, and officials comes as the issue of grain security grows more prominent in China. Chinese Vice Premier Hu Chunhua visited Heilongjiang province to inspect autumn grain production at some of the country's largest farms. This is the latest in a series of efforts to reassure the public that food security is well in hand. Analysts from the Beijing-based consulting agency Trivium China wrote in a note on Monday, whose visit is meant to send a clear signal that despite a challenging year, Chinese citizens will not need to worry about where their next meal is coming from. Thank you for watching this video. If you're finding it informative, please consider giving the channel a subscribe. And this comes courtesy of ChinaBankingNews.com. Xi Jinping calls for greater guidance of private economy by Chinese Communist Party. President Xi Jinping has called for the CCP to play a greater role in leading and guiding China's private economy. Xi said that party committees at all levels must strengthen their leadership of united front work for the private economy and thoroughly implement the directives and policies of the party. Xi also called for uniting figures from the private economy around the party, with party committees playing a key coordinating role. According to Xi, the private economy was a major component part of a socialist market economy, and expediting its healthy development was of critical importance. Xi made the remarks on September 16th at a meeting held in Beijing on China's private economy. At the same event, Wang Yang, head of the Central United Front Work Leadership Group, called for guiding private entrepreneurs in fully and correctly understanding the two unwaverings. A policy set comprised of unwavering consolidation and development of the public economy and unwavering encouragement, support and guidance for the development of the private economy. And our last piece of information is a series of interesting tweets. I think that's a good place to wrap up today's video. I hope that you found it informative, and check back soon for more content.